Hi there, my name is Charlene Thiessen, and my PowerPoint presentation is for Assignment 2, Part 4 of the PIDP 3250. Today I'm going to discuss Tips and Strategies number 12, Help Students Expect to Succeed, and how this can affect motivation. I will be discussing what that looks like for me as a music teacher and how important it is, and how I believe it is a very useful tool in the classroom. I have been a music teacher for over 25 years. I have taught many age groups and many different skill levels. My experience comes from teaching piano, and my philosophy of motivation and engagement also comes from that experience. I've also been a certified dental assistant for the last 25 years as well. I'm planning on teaching dental assisting students, so my experience as a piano teacher, I'm hoping, will be quite useful. My teaching style is more of a collaborative approach. I view myself as not only someone giving instruction, but as a facilitator and a mentor. I believe that if a student has more say in their learning, that they will hopefully be more motivated to learn. Having said that, I believe the greater the investment into their own learning, the greater chance of intrinsic motivation. Within this idea of helping students expect to succeed, my role as a teacher is very important in how I present new ideas, how I respond when things become difficult, and how I handle the situation when a student feels like they can't accomplish the task. Do I continue teaching what I need to get through, or do I come alongside that student so they can succeed? I prefer the latter. In Elizabeth Barclay's book, Student Engagement Techniques, she states that teachers can help students expect to be successful in their course by ensuring that learning activities and assessments promote success through clear organization, appropriate level of difficulty, scaffolding of complex tasks, communication of standards, and fair grading. So what does all this mean on a practical level when teaching students? Organized. When I'm organized, this just transfers to my students. If I don't have my lessons planned out, this reflects on their lesson time. In a classroom, having a plan and a backup plan is really important. If possible, I will try to find out a little bit more about my students before we are in the class together. A pre-assessment. Organization keeps anxiety down, which also transfers to my students. Appropriate level of difficulty. This is an individualized learning plan. Currently, each of my students works through the designated curriculum for their grade level. If they are struggling with a particular part, I will tweak their program slightly. They are still learning what is required, but in a way that is more specific to their learning style. An example of this is this. I assign a given piece of music to my student, and depending on their skill level will depend on how much of that music I assign. I usually follow the same pattern when assigning new material. For a student that is struggling to practice, or they might not have enough time that week to get done what is needed, I will give them a specific timeline, a practice schedule that they can stick to and that is more reasonable. This way they don't feel like they are letting me down, letting themselves down, or even failing. Giving a student more than they can handle will lead to discouragement and the decreased desire to try, which in turn drains the student of motivation. Scaffolding of complex tasks. Providing practical, appropriate ways that a student can accomplish the given task can be a monumental step in their growth as a student. Providing avenues that students can use is the key. Currently, I collaborate with my students, use different resources that they can use to accomplish the same task. This might mean giving them specific music websites to research the information, having a look on the computer at some music that interests them, and bring their ideas to the next class. We will decide together whether or not they feel that the difficulty level is appropriate for them, and then we'll print out some fun extracurricular music for them. I will follow that same type of learning environment in the classroom. The curriculum will probably be set for me, but there are many ways to individualize the lesson plans. Communication of standards. This is really important. If my students know what is expected, it is much easier to understand how to get the task done. They know how much time and effort each task will require. Before I assign a new piece of music to my students, I go through the checklist of what is required for each piece. Fair grading. This, I believe, has a lot to do with proper alignment of my curriculum, the assessments, and the evaluations. I do not grade and evaluate my students that are in higher levels the same way I would evaluate my students learning more preliminary ideas. I do ask that they work hard, and the outcome is usually specific to how much effort has been put in. I go through a complete assessment before taking on any new students, so I have a greater understanding of their abilities and challenges, as well as some of their likes and dislikes outside of their lessons. So what does this look like for me? I assign a portion of the music to be completed by next week that is appropriate for their skill level. Once they're able to play the entire piece of music solidly, getting all of the notes correct, timing, and observing all of the road signs, as I call them, we move on to the next task. I address any fundamental problems with the music and make sure we are starting from a solid base. Once they can play the music all the way through with little or no difficulty, I assign the expression component. We collaboratively add in the expression. This gives my students a great sense of investment into their music and brings it to life. During this learning process, however, the end can feel a long ways away. It is important to use encouragement and coaching. I have often told my students, "Thank goodness you still make mistakes, or I might not have a job anymore." They find this quite hilarious, but it is so true. It normalizes making mistakes. My students are not only looking for teaching, but some guidance. Coming alongside them takes me away from being in front of them to standing beside. I believe this visual sets a better tone. In my philosophy statement, I talked about my belief in being authentic. This is probably the platform I use to begin all of my teaching and motivation strategies. One last quote I would like to leave you with is from Barclay's Student Engagement Techniques. The best way to lead students to expect success is to structure this course so that they can succeed. If they try hard and persevere, even when things are tough, they will succeed. Thank you for taking the time to listen.